nights as well. So for me, that was a really lovely opportunity to just be with him and pray with him, over him, in the room. I didn't sleep much. It was an amazing experience, actually, because he was, tethered up and sort of very conscious of him rolling and
he's only little too, isn't he?
Yes, and he needed nappy changing every 4 hours and that kind of thing. So I kind of resolved that I wasn't going to sleep, and that was okay. I just sort of meditated on scripture and prayed and filled the room up with faith.
How was it like seeing him with all the, obviously treatment is quite unpleasant? What was that like as a granny or nana? Or
nanny?
How was that like as a nanny seeing your little one so poorly?
It's pretty confronting, but just back to your comment before about life after it all, in some ways it actually feels more confronting now to look back at photos and to remember, and even reading my journal. There are some bits where I just think, I remember, when the memory comes back, it's just like, that was just the worst. The worst. There was one night, I think he'd had his fourth lot of chemo, and so there's kind of this cumulative effect in him, and
getting weaker and
and up until then he hadn't vomited a lot, but on this particular night when I was looking after him, he vomited, and then he seemed to vomit every hour, and he was asleep, but I remember jumping up out of the bed to hold him. I didn't want him to aspirate anything, so I was holding him on his tummy, but thinking, if he gets this on his sleep suit, we'd made these sleep suits for him. If he gets that on him, we haven't got another spare, and I'm hitting the buzzer, because come and change the sheets, please. He's getting really distressed about the vomiting. It's just like, when I remembered it, I'm happy now I can say it without it affecting me too much now, but I had a memory of that about a month ago, and it was just like, that was a terrible time. In fact, I think after the third vomit, I messaged Anna and Andrew, because I was very cautious about, in situations like that, medical people approach you and say, would you like to do this or that? And I'm thinking, I don't want to be the decision maker here. This is new territory. We haven't been here before. Mummy and Daddy need to make the decisions about what happens next. So I messaged them, and Andrew actually came in and took over. I mean, I would have stayed, but
was that something that you were mindful of the whole time? Was the role of Nana and the them making the decisions? Is that something?
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah. I think when I would take over from them, and come in, I would be very strategic about where are we up to, what meds has he had, just trying to just clarify where we're up to, and what do you want to happen next? What are you looking out for? And just being really clear that I was following their lead, really. But I guess I did discover one time, Anna sort of gave me a bit of a it's inevitable, really, where you kind of hit sometimes. I tended to ask a lot more questions, like why are you giving him that? Why hasn't he had that other one that's meant to be every 4 hours? And there was a couple of times when I asked questions when she was there, and I don't know, I think she just thought I was being too something or other. But I just said, well, we had a really good conversation afterwards, actually, which was, came to us agreeing that I was one of 3 who were looking after him. So I'm invested in this. I need to know this for myself.
Did you both get a chance to put your point of view?
Yeah. She understood that. It was good. I didn't. Yeah, I think we'd sort of been acting a bit unconsciously about that stuff, but after that conversation.
So how far through the treatment was that? Roughly,
probably the third lot of chemo or something, second or third. It was pretty brief, but it just it just made me realise, okay, so I am following your lead, but I need to know stuff as well, and I'm really invested here. I'm not simply, I guess I'm not simply taking a lead. There's mostly that, but I've got a view here on what should happen. I know there were some times when there was a suggestion he could go home after chemo, and I was cautious about that and just sort of felt like, oh, is he stable enough? You know, like, you know, what happens if you, particularly because he hated having his port accessed, and if they de-accessed it, go home, and then suddenly he's unwell again. That's another trauma he's got to have. And I was
he one of those screaming really loudly?
Yeah.
That's a terrible sound. I don't think if you've ever heard that sound, it is one of the worst sounds in the world. I think that when a kid doesn't like it, screams around the
And Anna had sort of mentioned, because I was interested in what you're saying, that the children actually longitudinally seem to do so well, because some of the stories she was saying to me that she was reading was that, you know, children show evidence of sort of trauma for years beyond, you know, particularly around these kind of interventions. So I didn't want him to have any more of those than he needed to. And I guess there was a time when I wasn't super confident of their capacity to look after him when they got home. You know.
And what was that? Is that?
Well, I remember asking Anna, you know, those questions around what meds is he on and how often are they happening, knowing that, you know, when you're in hospital, that's largely done for you, even though I was pretty vigilant about that. But when you get home, you're the one doing that. And you're giving it orally, and he doesn't like that. And
Not your gas.
No. So I remember asking her, and her just kind of going, don't ask me all the details. I can't remember all these details. And I was like, this is really important details. I didn't say that to her, but what emerged out of that was that we got a big whiteboard. I think I said to her, we're sharing the care of him. You can't be holding it all in your head. And this is just sort of, I guess, an experience that I know from parents of kids with disabilities that I work with. They can be an absolute bottleneck because they know so much about their kid. And unless it's available to everyone else, nobody else can really take care of their kid. So I said, what if we get it out of you? We put it on a whiteboard, and then whoever is coming in here at home can see where we're up to. And yeah, I think I tend to be a bit more of a detailed person. She's a big picture person. And so, you know, I was thinking, and I'm also kind of pretty compliant, you know, if someone says you've got to do a mouthwash every 4 hours and you've got to put this gum stuff on, and he doesn't like it, but too bad, too sad, you know, we need to do this. Whereas she was like, at times, oh, he really doesn't like it, not worry about it.
Do you think that's easier as a nana with that?
With her saying that?
No, with, you know, you being able to, we have to do that. Do you think that's more personality thing, or just being a nana gives you that ability to kind of see the big picture sort of thing?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, and I was, you know, he's the most adorable child, but it is different as an Anna. It is. It's hard to put words on, but even now, like last week, he developed an infection, and I think for Anna, it's just like, oh. Here we are. You know, she's only sort of just into the post-cancer life. And it was really hard to sort of work out what was going on. He didn't have a runny nose or a cough or rash or anything, but his temperature was just high and barely managed with Panadol. And I think probably because of my experience as a parent, it's easier to sort of go, statistically, kids get infections, his immunity is low. You know, sure, it got to a point where I think after 48 hours, she said, what do you think we should do? I said, I think it's time to go to ED. And they did, and he's ended up being admitted and stayed overnight. But as a mum, I think I was able to, as a grandmum, and because of my experience as a mum, I think I was able to sort of go, most childhood infections resolve themselves. You you can't take your eyes off